So, I'm going to try to describe something that's been getting me hurt for 25 years. And what's even worse is that some of these doctors are feeding in the fantasies, meanwhile, denying me care for what is really in front of them. I'll give you some examples. When I was bleeding internally, so I felt this cool feeling 2 inches from my belly button. Then my testicles started to swell up and fill with blood. I had no idea what was going on, but I was scared shitless. I mean, anybody would. Or we'll say that just recently my urine turned black. I was using the bathroom and my urine turned black. So I had to scramble to get samples, go to the emergency room. Stuff like that. So, or here's another one. I started to describe something called the toothache plant back when I had tooth problems. There's a plant out there called the toothache plant that can cause numbing in the mouth. I was just discussing it. I wasn't using it, or I don't have any. Even though it could be a good plant to use, I was just discussing it with a doctor. And that plant doesn't exist. It must be a fantasy. This patient is crazy. So everything that comes out of his mouth must be a fantasy. But see, the problem with that is that's feeding into a fantasy. My mother convinced everybody that I'm some storyteller. So when I tell somebody that there's a plant out there called a toothache plant, they instantly feed into her fantasy and go, oh, no, this isn't true. It's some fantasy. Okay, let's write it down. Meanwhile, by doing that, by writing down, when I go in with black urine, if I go into the emergency room, my urine is black. I have it in hand. I got videos. Before they even look at the videos, before they look at the urine, before they look at the blood in my testicles, they label it as a fantasy. They feed into my mother's fantasy for months. I have to beg for a doctor just to see me. And they keep on going. It must be a fantasy. It must be made up. Must be a fantasy. It must be made up. So let's push this out 6 months. Let's push this out. No, we're not going to see him. Let's just kick this on some other doctor. For instance, when my testicles were filled with blood, I went to the emergency room. It was extremely difficult working with them because they were still feeding into my mother's fantasies. So then I finally got into the primary care, but my regular primary care wouldn't see me. He thought it was a fantasy. Just once again, my regular primary care was feeding in to my mother's fantasies once again. My primary care was reading my mother's statement saying that I make up stories and I like attention and all this. Meanwhile, the truth is my mother wanted attention. She was making up medical stories. She was twisting facts like I won a swimming medal into attachment disorder, kleptomania, and lying and stealing, like that type of stuff. Meanwhile, what was the truth? The truth was I won a swimming medal in the orphanage. That's it. I won a swimming medal. The orphanage wrote my initials ZG on the back, and then I went to show it to my mother. But she twisted that up for years. Age 5, age 6, age 7, age 8, age 9, age 10, age 11, age 12, age 14, age 15, age 16, age 17, all the way up. She constantly made up fantasies, told them to the doctor, got all these dangerous drugs. She also used to mess around with pills in my body. She also gave me extra medications. This is the real problem. But see, now at 31, I have an injury. I'm bleeding. My testicles are filled with blood. Oh my God, I'm scared. I got to go to the doctor. So I go to the doctor. Oh, I don't get treated like the rest of the population. I get discriminated against because my mother had a mental illness and spread fantasies. And these doctors want to feed in to a mental illness, my mother's mental illness. She's now dead. She died in 2011 because her mental illness killed her. Nobody helped her. She was drinking till the day she died. She was yellow with liver failure. She got released after a month of being in there yellow. Her liver was only at 20%. The doctors let her come home just to say goodbye. What do you think the first thing she did when she got home was? You think she hugged her child? You think she kissed her husband? You think that she tried to relax? You think she ate some good meal to try to boost her stamina? You think she ate some vegetables or berries hoping she could recover? Do you think she rested up so that she could talk or have a conversation with her kids? No. You want to know what my mother did? She went to the liquor cabinet and started drinking. Started drinking heavily, mixing it with the medications they're giving to her at the hospital, just drinking. What do you think my father's doing? He's walking away and allowing it. I have to be the father and the mother once again, and I'm only like 18, 19 at this time. Now, do you think any of the doctors helped her with this? No. No, they fed into her mental illness. I got stuck at home locked up. My father didn't tell them about the drinking or the pilling, and the doctors fed into this, fed into it more and more and more. And then when she passed away, of course, now I have to be stuck with this crap. I have to be stuck with my mother's mental illness on the record to make it look like all this crazy shit is going on. Meanwhile, all I want is to figure out why I'm bleeding internally. Come on, guys. That's not a mental illness. If 100 people can see it with their eyeballs, that's not a mental illness. If everybody can see it with their naked eyeballs, it's not a mental illness. But see, this has always been the case. If I have an injury that's not visible, I'm fucked. I have to die. Nobody's going to help me. If you can't see it with your own eyeballs, I never ever get treatment. I just get a bunch of malpractice, a bunch of psych bullshit, all because I have a real injury that needs to be looked at. Also, let's say I have an injury like black urine or my testicles are filling with blood. Once again, I have to spend months just to get somebody to try to listen because once again, they feed into my mother's mental illness over and over and over. And they feed into it trying to act like I have some crazy mental illness that isn't provable or disprovable. Oh, it just makes their jobs easier, so let's go along with it. No, fuck that. I have human rights. I have civil rights. I mean, goddamn, I do not need to be made cripple at age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then have it covered up to 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 for the rest of my life? Fuck that shit. Just because my mother was completely nuts, drugging a child, covering it up with doctors, trafficking me across the country, and then I got just dropped off in the middle of the woods and shelters to survive, does not mean I need to get treated like an animal for the rest of my life. I have civil rights. If I go to the doctor because there's blood that's visible in my testicles and I have a dripping feeling 2 inches to my GI, I do not expect to have them feed into my mother's mental illness and ignore and completely try to treat this illness with more mental illness treatments. No, that's not. You don't treat a broken leg with Thorazine and Seroquel. You don't treat black urine with therapy. That is fucked up shit. But the problem is that these doctors continue going into fantasy land, and then I'm in the real world asking for help, and they say I'm in fantasy land, that my black urine doesn't exist. Well, the color of the urine is visible to all people. It comes out of my penis that color, came in the cup that color. Now, thank God it went away, but I still have no answers of why my urine turned black. After a whole year, I still have no answers why my GI is still hurting, why I'm still feeling weird feelings 2 inches to the belly button, and why my testicles filled with blood 2 years ago when the GI started. They haven't given me any answers. Now, why have they not given me any answers? Because they keep on treating this as a mental illness. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. My black urine is a mental illness. My bleeding internally is a mental illness, they say. Now, the reason why they're doing that is because my mother had a mental illness. She never got treatment. She literally spent years fucking with a child's health. By the way, I was an orphan. I was just a rich lady's pet. A husband heard his wife ask for a child over and over. They were doing a bunch of other stuff. They had like 4 dogs and cats, and they also had some other African American foster children. And when I came in, she wanted to keep me, adopt me. She also made a mistake. She OD'd me as well. So after that overdose, she definitely did want to adopt me to cover up her mistake, but then she also didn't want to, but she did want to. She had so much guilt and so much fucked up shit going on with her. So she ended up, yes, adopting me, drugging me some more, crippling me some more, moving me all around, really hurting me horribly, drugging me, and then also lying and manipulating doctors. Like, for instance, I won that swimming medal. She told doctors that I had an attachment disorder, I was a liar and a thief. That's at age 5. I lit a match in the closet. I just lit a match because it was glowing. I actually didn't get it to light either. I was trying to light a match. I was only 5 years old. I didn't know how it worked yet. I came from an orphanage where we never seen a candle or a fireplace. In the orphanages, we don't have a fireplace. We don't get candles. We never ever get to see fire. So when I saw a candle or fireplaces and I saw matches being lit, I wanted to see what that was about. Well, anyways, so I tried. None of them would light. Didn't get a single match to light. My mother came in like the next day or that night or whatever. She started really, really scaring the shit out of me. I gave her the answer, I don't know what I'm doing. Then I gave her no, yes, no, yes. Then she twisted into I'm burning the house down. I give her, I don't know, I don't think so, yes, no, yes, no. And she's totally, I'm 5. You got this crazy mother twisting a child's mind for an hour. And then she also convinces every doctor that my purpose was burning down the house, even though I made it very clear that I had no idea what I was doing. Now, as an adult, I do. I was really enjoying the glow of the fireplace and the candles, and I really wanted to see if I could do it. It had nothing to do with a house. That was my mother's fantasy. My mother came in there saying that. I never said that. I said it after my mother told me that 20 times in a row. You're trying to burn the house down, aren't you? You're trying to burn the house down, aren't you? But see, anybody can do that to a child. I'll give you an example. My nephew, at the age of 5, brought a lighter to school. Now, I know this because when he came home, I had to go through his bag to help him with his homework because I was raising him at this point. But there was nobody at home for him. So I was doing breakfast, getting them to school, getting them off the bus, getting them their homework done, putting them to bed, and then they would repeat. Anyways, so I found the lighter in the bag. I asked him, what's this? Why did you bring this to school? He said he doesn't know. So I left it at that, and then I told him what would go on. I said, when I was your age, when I played with matches, they put me in a hospital. They jabbed me full of needles. They drugged me. They did horrible things to me, all because I had matches. Did you know that if you were with my mother and you had this lighter in your bag, you would be ruined for life? Now, that was very wrong of me to say, but it's true. That's what happened to me. It's a scare straight. But I didn't want to do anything really. He didn't understand what I was talking about. And I kept it very vague. You could go into the hospital and you could be medicated for this. But that wasn't the point. The point was to bring him to his biological mother, which I did. And then his biological mother had a talk with him. You can't be bringing lighters to school. It's really bad. Why did you do it? You don't know? Okay. And kids don't know why they're doing stuff. But see, if I acted like my mother, Patricia, if I acted like her, my adopted mother, if I did what she would have done is she tried to convince my nephew that he brought the lighter to school because he wanted to burn the school down. Because as soon as she gets a I don't know, she used to come up with a fantasy and then drill it into you. You must be burning down the school. No, admit it. You're lying. You don't know. Of course you know. You're 5 years old. You brought a lighter to school. Why did you bring it to school? I know you're doing something. What are you doing? Burning down the school? Come on. No. Don't tell me no. That no is you're lying to me. You're lying to me that there's no. No, you are. You are burning down the school. Don't give me a no. You're burning down the school, aren't you? That's what my mother would have done. She would have harassed the shit out of this 5-year-old and then tried to get a bunch of doctors and people involved. And that's what my mother did when I was 5. I played with matches. She comes into the room and totally convinces me and drills me with all these fantasies of hers. Now, this happened through my whole life with matches, with my swimming medal, with a bottle of Ipecac, with an overdose. No matter what she did, she twisted it into a fantasy. I won a swimming medal in the orphanage and they signed it ZG, and I'm trying to show it to her. I must have attachment disorder. I must be a liar, and I must be a thief. Your 5-year-old son is playing with matches. He must be trying to burn the house down. Oh, your son literally just has an overdose on the floor. No, those medical professionals don't know what they're talking about. We're going to leave him on the floor, and then we're going to try to come up with a bunch of stories to cover this one up. Oh, your son ate a mushroom and repeated something he shouldn't have? Well, let's give him extra Epicac, a whole bottle, and cause permanent damage to his esophagus and his stomach. This is fucked up shit. And this was all before we even became 7 years old. This is before we moved to Texas. Everything I just mentioned here was before I was 7 years old. It continued all the way up to 19. All the way up to 19, I had to put up with this bullshit. And now when I go into the doctors with an actual broken leg, with urine that is black, with my kidney shutting down, they want to treat it just like my mother did, as they want to go by her fantasy. They want to go by her records. I'm not even kidding. The doctors are still going by my mother's bullshit. Every time I try to go in, I'm 31. The doctors should be listening to their patient, me. I've told you what happened to me. I've told you it was traumatic. It's why I have PTSD. But yet, these doctors continue to fuck with me and use my mother's information to treat me. Literal fantasies. My doctors keep on going into fantasy land. Meanwhile, I'm over there with blood in my testicles trying to show it to them, and they're going, no, it can't be true, it can't be true, it can't be true. He has nothing wrong with him. He just wants to show his testicles off. He just wants to show his testicles off. That's all this is. Don't listen to him. Don't look, don't look, don't look. And then finally, when I finally get a doctor to look, their face drops. They go, oh my God, this is real? But everybody told me you're a crazy person. How could this be real? Everybody told me that you're crazy, but you're really got blood in your testicles. What's going on here? Same thing happens when I'm in the emergency room and I give them black urine. They expect there to be dye in it, like I put food dye or something in it, but then they don't find any dye. They don't find any drugs. They don't find any tampering with the urine. So then they come back like, we don't know nothing. That's because you're checking for a mental illness. You think I'm faking, which I'm not. I want to know why my urine turned black, you fucking assholes. Stop treating me for a goddamn fantasy. My mother had a mental illness. She had a fantasy. Stop treating me for her goddamn fantasy. I'm here asking to be treated because my urine turned black. Does anybody know how scary that is to see your urine turn black and then have doctors play games for a year? Literal games that your mother set up to be played. These doctors are having so many smiles and they get paid for it. On top of that, they're getting paid to malpractice me constantly. I come in telling them I have something like a broken leg and they decide to treat me for a mental illness. I go in there for black urine. They decide to check the urine for dye. I go in there with bloody testicles. They push the appointment out to 20 different doctors until finally one looks and then that doctor goes, I'm not qualified for this. Of course you're not. They literally told you that this was a mental illness. There wouldn't be anything wrong with me. That's what they told you. And now that you see that my testicles are filled with blood and you waited too long and my testicles, the swelling has gone down and I still have the GI pain, now that all that's going on, what you going to do? Oh, I'm not qualified for this. I don't know. It's very obvious that blood is being pulled down into your testicles, but I don't know how, where, or when. That's because they didn't give me the proper doctor. I wanted to see my regular primary care. I wanted to see a specialist, and I wanted to go in the emergency room. But they all played games thinking that this is some fucking mental illness thanks to my mother once again. So now I have to suffer greatly. I have to suffer greatly. And no matter when I go into doctors, they're constantly going to go into fantasy land. And I really wish we could bring these doctors back to earth. My urine is black. That is a fact. It's coming out of my penis black. Now that the doctor has that information, what tests can we run? What can we do to figure out why this is happening? But we don't get that far. They literally just test it for dye. They don't figure out anything, and then they give up. This is every single time. They just test it for food dyes or something. It's not food dyes. It's coming out of my penis black. It's not ink. It's not any dye. You guys can test it for dyes or medicines all you want. It has, unless you listen to your patient and start trying to actually write down what he's telling you, then you guys are not going to be able to treat me. And that's the problem. They're not. They're just using me as their private piggy bank. And I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of it. I don't think I can take much more. I don't think I can take much more systematic abuses. My organs are failing. I've had my kidneys taken away, my GI, my nervous system, my ability to walk, my ability to write, my ability to talk. I mean, all this. 25 years of this shit, I'm tired of it. I can't take anymore. I mean, when I was freaking 7 years old, I would be talking great in summer, and then in winter be fucking shut up. I mean, I was always bad at sports in the cold. I mean, just so much memories of this, so much drugging memories. I remember being on the ground and literally losing my sight completely to the point where I can't see what's going on. My eyes are going blurry and then going out. I can't stand up. I can't walk. I try to ask for help and is all I make. I try to crawl over because I think I'm dying and my heart is racing and my breathing is slowing down and I don't know what's going on. This is at age 7 on a pile of newspapers that I OD'd, and I didn't even get an ambulance. And then my mother spent years covering it up because she knew exactly what I was talking about, because me and her and my father brought this up in doctor's offices many times. Just my mother said, don't pay no attention to that. It's an allergy attack. Shut up, Zach. Oh, and boy, did I get it for bringing that up. Oh, boy, did she go nuts whenever I brought that up. I would bring it up. First, she would act really calm and cover it up with the doctor. Then she would cover it up if my father said anything, which he only asked one time, and that was when it first happened. He asked, I don't know what's going on. That's why I'm asking. My mother knows, but she's lying. And then we get home, and once again, she ups the pills, starts messing with me, trying to get diagnoses. On top of that, when she wanted to move to Texas, she was the one who wanted to move to Texas. Why? Because she was about to face something scary. Yeah. But if she moves me to Texas, nobody will ever find out what she did to me. This is fucked up shit. And the fact that I'm 31 and I'm still trying to get the care I needed at age 7 is fucked up. This is fucked up shit. I've been asking for 25 years for somebody to deal with my mother's fucking shit that she did to me, and nobody has. Well, now I'm an adult and I'm not asking. I'm demanding treatment. I'm demanding that I get treated like a human fucking being. I'm demanding that now. If I walk in with bleeding internally, I expect to be treated just for my bleeding internally, not for my mother's fantasies. But that's the problem. I go into the emergency room and they treat me for my mother's fantasies every single goddamn time. I never can get anything done because they always are treating me for my mother's goddamn fantasy bullshit.